I'm sorry, I'm not giving any prizes, but I might be able to, with my next guest, to give you a little bit of insight, a couple of nuggets of hopeful thought with our next subject, which is actually a very wide encompassing subject, new hospitality products and tech revolution. And I'm very fortunate because I don't know how it is with you guys, but technology, digitalization, Internet of Things, it's a bit like a wild boar up in the distance, very large, and you think he's quite slow, but he's here quicker than we will ever think he is. They run very quickly, rhinos as well. And it's the same with hospitality. I find that hospitality, we tend to be a little bit backwards in embracing change and being up to date with technology, understanding these things. And there's a whole world out there, it's changing very quickly. And just talking about digitalization, talking about Internet of Things, it's a bit like the Industrial Revolution. It's all happening now, disruption. And actually disruption is part of our game. And we're in hospitality, and we should be used to actually adapting and going with the changes very quickly. Enough of all that. I'm very fortunate to have three great local players. We have, and if you'd like to come up, we have Andrzej Szymczyk from Interconti, so we have a brand here, the Intercontinental Hotel chain. We then have Gorjan Lazarov, the CEO of Orea Hotels and Resorts. They have 20 properties here, so not without. Please take a seat. And then Zhivko Ivanov from Galaxy as asset manager director. And so, yeah, let's get started. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us, and it's been a very informative, nourishing conference to date so far. Yeah, I think it's a very wide-ranging subject. So what we're trying to do is pinpoint and highlight a couple of elements on the technological and digital side. We've heard a lot of buzzwords, Scrabble, the customer experience through digitalization, and there's a lot of technology out there. I think it's interesting to see because we've got owners and asset managers here, so we're seeing from a CAPEX, from a financial side, but also operational side, which is great, and actually happening here. It's interesting, I mean, I happen to live in Germany, and a lot of properties are still very behind with some of these things that these guys are doing. I mean, here, Zhivko, he's running a company with 17 hotels, correct? You have and the resorts and corporate throughout Bulgaria. You have here, you've got Gorjan with 20 properties here, resorts and corporate as well. And then, of course, we've got the brand, Interconti. We've got thousands of hotels and constantly trying to update. And what we're seeing, and that will come out, that will resonate throughout this, how the brands are trying to keep up. Who's telling who's recommending to who with brand standards. And actually you'll find that it's the investors, it's the operators who are probably, and the clients who are dictating all that change. Anyway, enough about me speaking. I would like to actually, it was interesting when we were sort of starting out about we're going to have this chat, thing that came up was the use of, one predominant theme was lack of staff. We know that in every industry now, but since COVID, of course, there's been a great exodus of staff. And I got chatting to Zhivko here, and they found a particular way of using new technology to deal with that. And it's trying to give that family with the resort properties, giving the family an experience for the kids to have fun, but also for people to get service. So if I could start with you, if you could just tell us or share your experiences dealing with robots, because that's and some of the things you're doing with vending machines and your idea behind that, please.
Thank you. After the COVID situation, more or less, we're seeing that the cities are developing quite well. Revenue there is steady. On the coast of Bulgaria especially, the leisure is a bit slower versus the city. But anyhow, after COVID, obviously the biggest problem for us is not the revenue, rather than the cost. And its most significant part is the labor, because now the labor is the game changer of our industry. and the fact that there is not enough number of people that are interested to stay in our business. The second thing is that the people that we're having are not so productive as they used to be. The third thing is that especially with seasonal properties, it's quite difficult because if you have 12 months of operation, it's different story. But let's say our group on the coast, I have to hire each year around 1,000, 1,100 people. And these people, they need training, they need to enter, the seasons are quite short, and it's really difficult to play this game the way it used to be.
How long is the season for you, classically?
Pre-COVID, it was 4.5 months. Now, unfortunately, it's around 2 to 2.5 months. So there is dramatic change on the Bulgarian coastline, and as I mentioned, for this period, you have to find a lot of people, push them to do decent work, and then terminate the contracts. So this is why what I'm doing presently is that we started since the COVID time to change the way we operate slowly at the beginning. Now it's getting faster and faster. Because our sphere, we were doing mainly digital sales. So in the sales process of hospitality, technologies has been always one of the leading industries. But let's say in the day-to-day operations, we have always been scared to put a lot of efforts on automation, because at the end of the day, we are a sphere where the guest was expecting from us to make a service, to have the personal contact, touch, and etc. So, of course, what we did as a company, we started from trying to touch the processes, to reorganize the processes. So let's say if you were doing a refurbishment of a kitchen, and before that we were having 6 or 7 positions in this kitchen. Now we are trying to invest more in capex, more in machines, more in staff, so that, let's say, terminate 2 or 3 the positions that we are not able to find anymore as chefs. Everybody that is working in this industry knows what is the problem with the chefs, and work, let's say, with 4 positions there. So yesterday, one of the guys from the technologies was asking if we should put it on the capex or the opex. Reality for us as an investment company is if I'm having a business model where I'm able to cut the cost long term and make some type of automation, I'm not thinking if I should put it on the OPEX or the CAPEX. I'm moving straight away, because reality is that if you get a more productive machine or a solution that saves you labor, now the cost of the labor is dramatical. And the other thing is that you're not able to train these people anymore the way they used to be. So we are not thinking so much, rather than acting. In the front of the house, where are the guests, what we are doing now with the renovation of hotels, we are putting more interactive processes, let's say on the coast especially. We are moving more into making more interactive buffets. So we are having more tablets, you're having more digital stuff. So when, as you mentioned, when you're having family, I'm trying to push the guest, the child, to move to the buffet. Our calculations now, and using some of the new machinery, are showing that we're able to cut the cost even from, let's say, beers, wines, and etc. There are solutions, digital solutions with artificial intelligence, that is significantly decreasing the loss of, let's say, liquid or whatever, soft drinks, and etc. So we're making the buffets more an interactive place, a place where the guest would come and serve herself or himself, and the waiters that we used to have as people serving, chatting with the guests, these functions we are trying to change by having, let's say, a couple of people in the restaurants, like people that are interacting with the guests, like
animators.
Yeah, animators of a kind, or hostesses.
Yes, sir.
So it's much easier to have 1 or 2 really trained people that have the social contacting skills, so that this person would go and interact with the guests and look after them. And we're changing the waiters more into runners that are collecting the used plates and etc.
Okay. Zhivko, this is all up and running already, or is this a project you're working on?
We're working now we're starting a refurbishment early next year, and this is some of the things that we're implementing there stage by stage. Part of this, we are putting kiosks on as an alternative to reception, so that you're able to have a secondary option if you don't want to go the reception. We are putting robots as deliveries for the room service and cleaning robots and machines. We were speaking with Goran the other day when we were in their property that they have already introduced some of these solutions. I have some experience in Sofia as well with delivery robots, and it's working quite well. Now we are in the topic and researching the different options for cleaning robots, because they are the Chinese, they are much ahead, obviously, and it's more cheaper. But as we were speaking, you need to change some of your operations in the IT stuff. So you're cutting some cost in the operation, but you're increasing the number of IT guys going after these machines.
Gorjan, you're already working with robots as well?
Yes.
So how's that been going? I mean, and what I'd be interested to know, I mean, sort of a investment side, but also the guests. What do they think? How's it accepted by them?
Great. Actually, for us, Orea is the biggest Czech brand. We're managing 20 hotels, some in Prague, but some in the mountains and in Mariánské Lázně. And I'm saying not the biggest chain, but the biggest brand, because we are building a brand that is, and one of the pillars of the brand is innovation. We have hotels that were built for the ones that joined in Hotel Pyramida on the opening reception. Hotels that are built mostly in the 80s. But we have managed to transform the hotels from a guest experience, from a service perspective, and from a product perspective, because we think that, okay, a hotel can be built in the 80s, but you don't need to feel from a guest experience in the 80s. You can be
no shoulder pads.
So basically, we began with robots back in 2017, when we were back in the 80s. And it was more a signal to the market and a signal to the employees internally in the company that we are willing to change. And that was Pepper, the robot that is basically doing concierge services, and kids love him. Yeah, so now he's traveling through all our resorts and he's playing with the kids, and it's great. With COVID, we have introduced some delivery robots in the bars. And not only kids, but our staff love them because it saves steps. I don't see this process as a cost-cutting process. I think if I look at it, it was a big attraction. People booked our hotels to see the service by robots. They were actually saying, "I want the robot to deliver me the beer, not the waiter." Yeah, so, but I guess this is normal because it's a new thing.
But you're having to invest a lot of money. I mean, we're talking a lot of upfront money with staff. Let's do the immediate comparison. Your staffing costs, that's monthly basis. But with this technology, you're putting a lot of money up front, and then it's capex afterwards.
Well, there are different financial models. You can lease out the technology. Okay. So this is basically moving the capex on the OPEX side. So that is not that bad or that capital intensive. So that's good news. And basically in Hotel Pyramida, we have a robot that is cleaning all the public space. So actually, I think it's one of the, maybe, at least when we were launching, it was the first robot in Europe that was able to call the elevator, go into the elevator, and go through the floors, which obviously for a large Congress hotel, it is a great thing.
But this sort of, thinking about this, is sort of creates another slight challenge, and that is that technology is constantly changing. I mean, since you started in 2017, you've got this heroic, but aren't you having to sort of upgrade already? You know, so
Yes, and this is to Zhivko's point. Our IT guys were working with the robot because basically the technology that the robot was using became old. So this is a challenge that obviously we will face. But I think that, you know, robot is probably the tangible, and we are in an industry where we like things that are tangible, that we want to touch and to feel. But I think that the story with technology is bigger than robots. Yeah, I think that, I mean, from a guest perspective, obviously, internet and Wi-Fi and technology becomes like hot water in the room already, right? In terms of guest expectations, so it's nothing revolutionary. But where I see really huge potential for the industry is basically the customer point of view. You know, because from a customer point of view, I think that we are far behind how we use data, how we individualize and personalize our the stay, how we add value. I think this is what is making the business case, because, you know, people say, well, technology, hotels are about people, and technology is going to kill that. I don't think so. I think that technology will actually amplify it, because the human touch, because actually it will remove all the unnecessary things from the people interaction, and people can focus on the
so
on the necessary
basically,
things.
frontline workers, you free their hands so they can actually
Exactly.
give serves and spend time with the client.
Service the guests, and
Yeah.
if you're using rightly the data, actually provide them with personalized experience. And I think this is what in the future is going to add value, and this is where the market is going.
Well, talking about adding value and the experience here, we have one of the brands, Interconti. As a brand, what's your, you know, brand? I remember my previous years, you know, the brand standards, the holy grail of brand standards, you know, the SOP. How does that all fit in with your plans and what you're doing, and how you're managing to keep up with that?
I think it's, as Gorjan said, this is a never-ending story. And one thing is what you see, what's tangible. You see the robot, you see the machine, etc., etc. You touch the app, I don't know, you go to instant messaging. But there's so much happening behind that the guests will never see. I mean, they're gonna use it, but they don't know how much systems, IT, investment, people, it's still people behind, do. So for us having, you know, over 6,000 hotels open around the world as Intercontinental Hotels Group, and another almost 2,000 in the pipeline, it's sometimes a bit more challenging that for the local players. I mean, we're not going to be always as quick in some things as Gorjan or Zhivko, because it's the scale, it's the security, it's the safety, it's the data protection, etc., etc. But there's so many things happening on front of the technology for the owners and for the guests. I have a little helper here, which is again technology, right? The iPad, but I have some interesting stats what we saw from the digitalization of IAG processes. That actually those things they rarely are being spoken about. So because today it's not only about the bedroom, the experience, the great food, etc. It's all about the seamless experience of the guest, right? Especially the new generation that are glued to their phones and devices. It's a different customer, and being global, you need to make sure that you kind of balance it out, that, okay, you're gonna have a guest that loves the technology and can use whatever you give them, but there are also guests who don't want to or not able to use the technology, right? Even simple things like, I don't know, mobile keys, online checking, etc., etc. There's a certain barrier as well for those. So it's still the start of the journey, in my opinion, and we're investing a lot. We spent about $1.4 billion in the recent years to develop the systems, and we have not stopped. We'll continue to do that. On the guest side, we've launched a brand new mobile app last year, because we see that the mobile is actually the fastest growing revenue channel. And we get so many great comments from the users of the app that it's a different experience, it's a very good experience, it keeps evolving in the right way. And we've had something around 6 million downloads since then.
With this app?
With the app, yeah.
Okay.
And if you go further into details, we actually we see a big shift in preference for mobile devices. Mobile accounts for about 50% of all digital bookings. And in the first half of this year, we actually saw even a 40 to 50% increase versus the same time 2022. So this shows how important it is, right? Websites, well, still great, but it's moving towards mobile because we carry that little computer with us pretty much all the time.
So through this app, they're going through requests, applications. So for instance, you have departments in the background, like housekeeping, these guys picking up on that? Is that
Now we're talking back of the house system.
back of house system? Okay.
Which is linked to the PMS, etc., etc.
Okay.
And then what the PMS can do, because we still have owners running different PMSs around the world. I mean, that's the legacy of being a big group. But if you look on that, there's so much IA being used. We actually even have a steering committee in IAG for the generative IA, and there's people from various departments looking on how we can employ the technology to actually help the guest experience, but at the end of the day, help the owner, right? Because if you have a happy guest that pays money, it's going to be the happy owner. If those two are happy, we're going to be happy as a group, as a franchisor. And it's not always all the major things that you're going to, see a big wow on the screen that, oh, they've done it. No, little things. Connecting to Wi-Fi in hotels. What we've done in the app, and it's available almost in about 5,000 hotels around the world already, if you trigger a button, it will automatically connect you to the Wi-Fi network. Does not matter where you are around the world. You just need to flip the switch in the app. So, little thing, but forget about, especially on Apple devices, or you need to wait for the login screen to come up, etc., etc., etc. It takes time. No, it's seamless. Because people don't want to notice those little barriers, right? So that works. I mean, we're rolling out the Apple AirPlay into all hotels as a first hotel company globally. So that's going to happen over the years. It's as well important thing to do. If you're global, and even if you're local, right? You're going to start with one, add 5 more, add 5 more. It takes time. Might take CapEx, it might take OpEx, but it needs time. Right, you cannot do it overnight, and there's a big expectation these days that we want everything today, now, everything now.
And is there any particular classification of a hotel, particular segment where this is going on,
No,
or is it
everywhere.
completely through?
Throughout the estate, then coming back, to the app and what you asked about. So the guest is choosing something. Yes, if you go and reserve a booking, make a booking with us. We launched some time ago what we call the attributes of the reservation of your stay. So the hotels have itemized all the things that you can actually get in the hotel, and you can pre-select it, pre-choose it on the reservation moment already. So that helps because, I mean, if you look, I started 20 years ago. I still remember the old days where you had 3 things that you could choose. I don't know, a pillow, a room far or close to the elevator, etc. There's so much more, and it's only dependent on the hotel what they actually want to put into inventory. Because what it helps to increase the revenue, right? On one side, but also the guest experience. If you travel, as I do quite often, sometimes somebody asks me where I'm based. I say, Warsaw Airport for the next 6 weeks. As a lot of corporate travelers, that we want to have a very efficient day because we have a lot of things to do, right? And we happy with all these applications, possibilities, having a robot to clean up. That does not replace a human being. It helps, especially when you're lacking. And then you go on the owner side.
So you mean on our operational side?
Yeah. So if you go on the owner side, because at the end of the day, we're there to help to maximize the value of the property, right, with the brands and all the know-how and support that we're providing. Back in 1965, if I remember correctly, I think we were the first one to roll out the centralized reservation system. Some of people still know the name of the Holidex, which, some people say, well, today everything is online. Yes. No, you actually could. What you could do back then, 60 years ago, you could go into a Holiday Inn hotel and reserve a room at any other Holiday Inn hotel around the world through an app in 1965, right? Let's call it an app.
So really, we've replaced that with an app, which is
Yeah. So
here.
exactly. So it's not that technology is new to hotels, but it takes time. It's a process, and will continue. Some people say that we probably the slowest one as an industry overall to get the technology ongoing, but because there's so many things you need to do in a hotel, sometimes you need to focus, right? Okay, do I focus more on a guest experience, or do I focus more on actually distribution system and make sure that I have guests in-house rather than have all the fireworks in the hotel, but I don't have the guests at the door?
I'm going to pick up on that point, focusing on guests in-house. Another element about, we're talking about apps and guest services, it's interesting how many, I'm wondering if you guys are using things as well, in the back of house, that like each department is using a particular, it could be WhatsApp, they have a group chat. Is that happening with you, that your departments are working in department with messaging and things like that?
Yeah, that's a must now.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously WhatsApp, we were lucky in a way even before COVID, because we were already, we had implemented Teams and all this stuff from Microsoft for, let's say, remote working. But nowadays, all the stuff they're using these communication channels, which are making things easier and more efficient.
You save a fortune on walkie-talkies as well.
If I could get in here,
Dive
so
in.
with the chains is a different story, because even with this hotel here, what I'm seeing is that so the brands by themselves will never take huge risky steps. So they would test the technology, test. They're focusing, as you mentioned, in the booking, because booking.com is making 90% mobile. If ING is making now 50%. So it's normal that you collect the data and keep the reservation within the system. It's normal to have the focus, because you're making money out of each reservation. On the other side, there should be some changes. I don't agree that our industry is so behind. As I mentioned, we're using technologies in the sales for years. We have implemented, especially during the COVID, a lot of technologies around the conference centers that we're using. The applications, when I enter a hotel, I was in another hotel last week, and they were having some apps for different stuff. And I'm always testing to see if it works, how it works, what is the time of direction, etc. So here as well, in the Marriott, you're having sharing, ability to share your mobile or tablet to the TV set.
That's happened to me. I had to mention that. That was the first time it ever happened to me.
Yeah, but why?
Yesterday, when I came in yesterday, I checked in, and the TV, I immediately got a message, did I want to, which I found very sweet, very nice.
For years, the chains were trying to escape out of this, because there is security risk on this. Because you're able to share it not only to your room, but you're able to share it with side rooms as well. So I didn't test it with the side rooms when I was here, but when you want to share your content, it's asking you about 3 rooms do you want to share. So it's actively taking the 2 side rooms as an option. So this is something that maybe this hotel here, the owner or the manager, the GM, they decided to test something new, because we're speaking of experience. Each of us know that majority of the guests now going into the room, they want to have their Netflix account, their HBO account, whatever, and they do not care anymore about the TV programs that we are offering or etc. If you're watching your favorite series or whatever, you want, when you're traveling, to use your Netflix. You do not care if the hotel is having the local channels or international channels or whatever.
The owner's here. Well, he's the owner representative. Erstbank from Vienna, Herbert Gangel. Is he here? He's the owner there. He's in the back there. Yeah, you can chat with him later and find out. See, you want to find out with all that sharing and stuff, you can ask him. Okay. There you go.
I think the Zhivko's point that we don't like things, so we want test.
You're cautious. You don't. I'm not saying that.
He's cautious because Wyndham's sitting here. That's why.
No, people who know me here, I'm always straight in the face and pretty blunt. But imagine what would happen if you would not test and you would get a solution which is not testing, it's not working. You would say the same, you would keep complaining, right? So it's...
But you do, I've been to your one of your magic red carpet rollouts in Denham, the old film studios in the UK, and you have sample rooms and, you know, the best of, and aren't you constantly still, you know, testing things?
Yeah, I mean,
there's
there's a big technology department in, we moved to Windsor a few months ago, last year. But the technology is, we all know it, right? You know, it's so rapid in development that, you know, you talk to the guys from the TV producers here as well, and they can tell their side of the story. But if we say to the owners, guys, that's the list of, quote, future-proof TVs, for example, that will allow you know to upgrade the software, put the connection, the streaming, etc., etc. But we don't know what the technology is going to be. We don't have a crystal ball in 2 years' time, right? And there might be somebody will come up with something new. So you cannot prepare for everything. And yes, we like to test things. We don't want the product that is not working. And because the worst thing that you can do if you roll it out and the guests are not happy, the owners are not happy, and it's a big brand promise problem, right? Because we promise to have you a certain experience with the brand. That's why you come to the brand. One side is the distribution system, loyalty guests, but it's that promise that you have a certain level of experience, of service, of safety, of features, etc., etc. We can keep going, but
that's a bad journey because, like broken promises, it's a bit like deceit, and that's not good in a relationship. That's the trust element is gone. You're talking about apps, though. I mean, just very quickly, because I know that TUI, when they back in 2015, they launched the TUI Blue brand, and they came out with an app, and it was a concierge service, and they put about 20, 30 people, you know, in a dark room for about 4 months to hack out this app. And the idea was that, you know, you would, from the day of your reservation, you had this app, and then you could start monitoring the sort of stay you wanted to have, like a bit of a concierge service, and actually it was very, very deep going. Are you guys doing anything in that? Have you got like when in your resort properties you have an app that is giving some form of service or not just informational service?
Not that much, actually. I mean, if I look at it, and I would agree with Zhivko as well, and it's good news for us as a regional player. I think that the big brands are far more conservative and slower, and I think that technology is leveling the game between, let's say, a small regional or local operator as us, having an ambition to go regional.
But you're leading the
I
market.
think one thing is, yeah, but one thing is the concierge services and everything. But I think this is really the basics. I think that what we need to we need to unzoom a bit and work far more on the data, on what we have, basically transform the industry data from a reservation number to a guest number,
Well, the guest experience.
Exactly,
focus.
and amplify the guest experience, and we are working on that, right? I was in a conference actually, listening to a panel of digital guys from the big brands saying, listen, guests that don't want online check-in, right? We thought that as well, but we had a lousy product, right? We took people from outside the industry to actually help us develop the product. We are now into 50% share of online check-in on eligible reservations.
It's a bit like traveling with on airplane. You check in advance.
Exactly.
So
and
are you doing?
You don't have really, as a customer, you don't have the need to show your ID at the reception, and you know, you have a need to have the personalized stay, right?
So you create a sort of reservation wallet, and then it's the idea that eventually you'll be able to use that as a key to go into the room.
One click experience. So, but where I see the revenue potential and the revenue upside is basically when individualizing on the guest preferences and working with the guest data, right? Because if we look at it, we have all our systems, the POS systems, right? We can go now, stay in the hotel, have a drink down at the bar. We can sign the room, the bill on the room, but the systems are not set up that they're connected to me in the room, and then to my likes and whatever. So this is an environment we are trying to build at Orea currently. We are heavily working on digital, and we see our opportunity basically to be faster than the big brands if we're able to develop a product that we would be able to scale, that would then bring value to both the hotel owners and the investors and to the guests.
Zhivko,
one other thing,
dive in.
the short answer to the concierge app, I have tested it. It was pure disaster in two properties.
Good.
The other thing that will make, as Goran mentioned, the local chains and local owners more flexible is that they are testing things with Chinese products as well. So the economic war that is happening now, it will get worse, definitely. And we all know that if you buy a robot from Diversi, the price is a couple of times higher than if you buy the same type of robot from China. And because of what is coming up, majority of the big brands are not able to work with the Chinese companies because it's a security risk and etc., etc., etc. So this is part of the equation. So this will slow down for sure the implementation of many technologies in future.
In our conversation, we were talking, because I mean, it's sort of a new world for me, but understanding, these products from Dyson. I mean, Dyson, it's an expensive product, so it must cost an absolute fortune. But the wonderful thing is, there are certain tasks that you can do in the middle of the night because they're automated and it's quiet. So, like vacuum cleaning the corridors or certain public areas very quietly without disturbing people. Amongst yourselves, is there anything you wanted to ask each other or something particularly you wanted to share with us, mention with us?
I think technology is not going to go away. It's something that you mentioned, a mock-up room in the head office. If we all together today decide, have a Lego bricks and we build an ideal hotel, because of the world we're living in, tomorrow is going to be outdated.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the same with technology, right? Yes, we're very good in hotels overall in gathering data. For decades, we've been doing that. The use of data is
big data.
Big data. It's happening, not on a scale that everybody would want it, for various reasons. Legacy systems, challenges in IT, etc., etc. It's big investments we're talking about, right? But there's one thing that not many people, I know, I see the clock ticking, not many people follow, is that data protection, right?
Yeah.
We, as an operator, a global brand, we cannot just freely use data left by the guest in Australia to provide them the service in Europe. So it will keep evolving, but it's also about what the guest expects at the end of the day.
Well, it's actually, just quickly ending here, that's one final point. Something that's just come up. We've been sort of dancing around that subject, and that's worth another panel discussion, big data. And that's, you've touched on it, we've all touched on it. Interestingly enough, looking at what's happening in the market, Arcor recently announced yesterday, or day before yesterday, they bought 31% into a specialist company based out of Munich called Daily Point, run by a guy called Michael Todd, which just shows you where they're going. So it's like understanding which business they're in. And so, if you're ahead of the game, I'd like to think so, but it's a constantly changing market. One thing that's come out of this is that definitely it's not, using technology is not about replacing people. It's actually enhancing guest services. And also it's an opportunity for further development, individual development of staff, that they, learning to do business differently. And at the end of the day, still create the customer experience and, generate revenues.
I think, we've been known as hotels or rooms with technology, with IT.
Yep.
And probably, in 200 years from now, I'm not a fortune teller, but we're going to be more IT companies with all the hotel services attached, because that's the reality today, and that's the future.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, we could go on, I'm sure, especially if we had a couple of beers here. While we're still here, anybody got any particular questions or anything, you want to make a comment about? Please.
One just comment.
Who are you?
Horvat HTL Poland, Darius.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, Gorjan. The food was very good at the day first. And don't exchange the stuff from the kitchen to the robots.
Thanks.
Keep with them.
We're not exchanging any stuff to robots.
Question to Zhivko. You mentioned that your season is reduced to 2.5 months. To the rest of the year, you are closing some of your hotels or not?
Yeah, especially on the coast, yes.
But it's mean it's our fault as hospitality that we fired the people during the pandemic time, and now it's difficult to come back to them and ask to work for us, and it's mean the hospitality lost their credibility.
That's another panel discussion.
I personally,
You mentioned at the beginning.
I personally could say for our group that it's not the reality. We kept all of the core people throughout the whole period. We paid everything, and we didn't terminate even one person that was worthy. So when the COVID started, we terminated obviously people that we have not been happy with, and this is now, especially in our Sofia hotels, we're having Intercontinental Sofia, we're having Hilton Sofia. The core team is now 95% the same before the COVID. Industry-wise, you're right. In our case, we did our best not to do so. But the reality is that the new generations, they're not interested in this sector. And I was having reading.
Sorry, you mean working in hospitality?
Yeah, I was having a research last week with one big company, and they're saying that the Gen Z, they want to have more time for themselves rather than the time that they spent on the work. And the other thing is that from the working hours that these guys were paying them, if you're paying 8 hours today, reality is that you're not getting 8 hours of 8 working hours. Best case, you're getting 4 to 5 hours, because they are non-stop searching the mobiles, staying in the social medias, and etc. This is why I say that we need to change a bit. The luxury segment, yeah. If you're able to get 6, 7, 800, 10,000, 1,000 or 10,000, whatever, per night, then you're safe. In the lowest segment, where you provide really cheap stuff as well, but in the middle, as we are speaking, there is a huge gap, and this gap, I think, would be softened with some technologies, because we are not able to find the proper people to work, neither from Europe, neither from third countries presently.
One more comment that 10 years ago we tried to implement in 1,000 room hotels the special devices for the housekeeping, in order to have everything on the real time for the reception, for the technical departments, etc. And try to convince the housekeeping how they can use it. It was tough, but we did it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody comments or no? Yep. Stand up. Say your name.
Yes. Paweł Zaworski from Samsung. Regarding TVs, I just wanted to comment that we work on background compatibility, and it's actually 5 to 7 years. So it's a lifetime of TV and a lifetime of a room in a hotel, roughly from one soft refurbishment to the other. But my question to you is whether chain is working on some kind of standard that will bring technology down to lower hotels with 2-3 star ratings, because we see a lot of progress in luxury hotels. There is a lot of technology used, seen by guests, that technology is used in the background. But when we talk about 2 and 3 star hotels, still the standards are pretty general, and technology is perceived there as luxury, and because of that not pushed so much to lower brand hotels.
What technology do you have in mind?
Guest experience technology, televisions with system that is operating on it, Wi-Fi.
I'll speak for IG. Wi-Fi, we have one standard Wi-Fi, IG Connect, which is the same for every hotel. Doesn't matter, it's Intercontinental, Six Senses, or Holiday Inn Express, and does not matter. It's a standard. It's the same with TVs, as you know. We know there's a approved list of TVs, for example, right? And then Zhivko knows as well. He has one of our hotels. It's but because I think where you're coming from is that every hotel is going to be in a different lifetime, right? Of the cycle of the life of the hotel. And if you're a brand new hotel and you bought your TVs 2 years ago, you're not gonna spend another millions today because there's a new product rolled out. And we as IG, we're not gonna say, hey Zhivko, sorry, you spent €2 million on TVs last year, but we need to change them, right? It does not happen like that, right? We work with the owners.
You will say it in 2 years later.
But jokes aside, it's always a conversation, what makes commercial sense at the end of the day, right? If you change TVs every 6 to 7 years, I would say that's the technology cycle. I will throw the ball in your game and say, why don't you create TVs that can have a lifetime of 15 years, which is the 12 to 13 years, that's a typical CapEx time for hotels, right? So it's not only that the change. No.
This is good point. This is really good point.
Know,
if you're able to produce TV sets for 15 years and upgrade the software,
Yeah.
So
maybe we could just pay you monthly fees and not buy TV sets anymore.
You've seen in the last decade. You've seen in the last decade it went from 720 points to 4K, 8K these days, etc. I mean, there's a limitation to human eye. Are we gonna get more than 4K, 8K? Probably, technically. Does it make commercial sense? In my opinion, it doesn't. Because the person who's gonna watch that TV is not gonna see the difference. Plus it's also, I remember still talking to TVs back in the days when I was operating, like working in hotels. It's about the content, and the quality of the content is actually broadcasted at TV, right? Show me a broadcaster that broadcasts everything in 4K. Show me the amount of movies that you can actually watch in 4K. It's not that many. Why? Because it's a commercial decision made by somebody, right? Who is making that content. So it's not easy. It's not complicated.
I'm going to butt in here.
I know. But the one thing is, it's not going to happen overnight. It's happening, and everybody can confirm that in this room, whether we're big, local, single, etc., but it's not going to happen overnight. It's a process.
If I may have just one last sentence on that.
No, because we have it's a commercial thing. We've got a conference here, and we've got to carry on, and Tanya's going to start throwing rocks at me. But I just want to thank our panel. As you can see, there's a lot to go on, and if you have any further questions, pick up with these guys while they're still here. Okay, thank you very much.